We're back with the GCN Racing News Show. Coming up, after a brutal final week, the Tour de France reaches its conclusion in Paris. We'll go through 5 talking points and get some really interesting insight into the power demands through training peaks. Bike racing outside of the Tour de France resumes with the men's and women's Prudential RideLondon Surrey Classics, the GP Pino Cerami and the Tour de Wallonie. Plus, we look at the latest attempt at the world hour record, and we're going to see how riders are getting on at the NorthCape 4000 event. The Tour de France has finished for yet another year. No doubt you all know the results by now. Sagan won green, as was expected. Julian Alaphilippe won the polka dot jersey. Pierre Latour won the white jersey. And Movistar fought really hard and achieved their aim of the team's classification, with a stage win for Quintana along the way. But the big prize went to Geraint Thomas. And what we've learnt is that Geraint is an extremely popular winner. Just cast your eye over a few of the social media posts after he crossed the line on Saturday's time trial. And it's evident that Geraint is extremely well respected as a rider, as a worker, and as a human being. He's won gold medals at the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games, the World Championships. He's won cobbled classics in the form of the E3 prize, Paris-Nice, the Critérium du Dauphiné, and now, against all expectation, he's landed the big one. Thomas's win has been one built on strength, power and endurance, but also on good fortune, a key component that I think it's fair to say he's managed to avoid pretty well throughout his career.
Chute de Geraint Thomas. Chute de Geraint Thomas, sky.
Over 21 stages, he did not put a foot wrong. And apart from his minor wobble in the last time trial, it's been the perfect race. We've got a video up on the channel now which looks back at his career, the highs and the lows. So make sure you check that out. In the meantime, we will add even further to his highs by announcing him as this week's GCN Rider of the Week. Now, whilst it's fair to say that the winner gets the majority of the attention, it turns out you don't do too badly if you're last. Lawson Craddock crashed out on the very first day of the race, fracturing his scapula. But, incredibly, he managed to soldier through the next 20 stages and complete the race yesterday in Paris. He therefore has the unfortunate honour of being the only person in history of the sport to hold last place from the first stage to the last. But in doing so, he has raised over $195,000 and counting to go towards the reparation of the Elkek Velodrome in Houston, Texas, which was badly damaged by Hurricane Harvey last year. Chapeau, Lawson. We've also, in the last 3 weeks, seen Chris Froome show the utmost in respect and sportsmanship. There can't be that many 6-time Grand Tour winners, or probably any, in fact, who would have accepted being second best within their own team at the Tour de France. But not only did Froome do exactly that, he's not had a bad word to say. He's had nothing but kind words for his teammate. Thomas has been a loyal lieutenant for a long time now, and Froome has repaid that with support with an incredible show of his own loyalty. Ironically, losing will likely be the biggest win for Chris Froome himself. He'll almost have certainly gained more in terms of respect and popularity from the public with his 3rd place this year than with any of his 4 wins that he's ridden like a true champion. We also have, thanks to Training Peaks, had an insight into what it takes physiologically to have success or even just get through the Tour de France. Michael Hepburn, for example, finished in 10th in the time trial on Saturday, 1 minute 23 seconds down on Tom Dumoulin. But to do that, he had an average power of 418 watts and a normalised of 436 for the 42-minute effort. That's pretty impressive off the back of 3 weeks of racing and some hard days in the mountains. The start of stage 16 was somewhat overshadowed by the pepper spray incident, but disregarding that short break, it was an incredibly intense start to the stage in which it took over 100 kilometres for the break to finally go. From the gun, Matt Hayman did 486 watts for 2 minutes and had a normalised power of 380 watts for the first 35 minutes. He would end up with an actual average of 276 watts for the entire 6-hour stage, including the neutralise zone. And that includes the descent to the finish too. Now Matt's a pretty big guy, but that is a lot of power. At the other end of the scale, from a weight point of view, is Hayman's teammate Mikkel Nieve. For the 65-kilometre mountain stage, he averaged 270 watts with a normalised power of 300 watts. And that brings us nicely onto our final talking point. A few weeks ago, I personally checked out stage 17. just a few days before the event. And I must admit, I was not only really looking forward to watching it, but also fascinated to see that incredible gridded start. Let's relive that magical moment, shall we? No, I've never, ever in my life felt so let down. But in hindsight, perhaps we shouldn't have expected fireworks from the gun. But that really was a gimmick, wasn't it? It was pretty bad. Contrary to that though, the rest of the stage was exciting. And what I particularly liked was the fact that we got a lot of action, condensed into just that 2 hours and 20 minutes on the stage. From a viewing point of view, I felt that worked, and I'd like to see it again. But we'd like to hear your thoughts. At the top of the screen, you will see a poll. Let us know if you want to see more of these kinds of stages in the future, and give your reasoning in the comments below. This weekend saw a whole host of events at the 2018 RideLondon, including the Brompton World Championships, the Women's Classique, the Men's Classic, and a range of sportive distances right up to 100 miles. 25,000 amateurs took on the 100-mile route faced by tough weather conditions. There were also a few famous names riding, including rugby star Martin Johnson and the runner Kelly Holmes. Our very own Emma Pooley took part in both the Brompton race and the 100-mile sportive, where she was riding a 24-kilo buffalo bike with the extra weight from the oranges she was transporting around. Emma, in fact, won the Brompton to add another world championship to her glittering palmares. She also managed to complete the sportive in 10 hours, 4 minutes and 50 seconds, so a huge well done to Emma. The women's race, the RideLondon Classique, saw the riders take on a 64.1 kilometre course consisting of 12 laps of a 5.3 kilometre circuit, starting and finishing on the Mall. A high pace throughout meant little in terms of breakaway action, and so the race came down to a bunch sprint in which Kirsten Wild of the Wiggle High 5 team caught her compatriot Marianne Vos in the final few metres, whilst Elisa Balsamo of Valcar PBM rounded off the podium. The win for Wiggle High 5 comes only a few days after the team announced they will not register for the 2019 season, leaving the riders with uncertain futures. Given a number of their riders' performances recently, it seems likely this won't be the last we see of them in the Women's World Tour. Disappointing news, and I'm sure Wild and her teammates will welcome the €25,000 prize money that she won on the day. In the men's RideLondon Surrey Classic, a strong field took on the 183-kilometre route around London and the Surrey Hills, including Mark Cavendish, Ilia Viviani, Caleb Ewan and Andre Greipel. Bora Hansgrohe set the pace onto the Mall and teed up perfectly for their sprinter Pascal Ackermann, who beat Ilia Viviani and Giacomo Nizzolo to the line. Another big win for the German champion, who is going from strength to strength. We've also last week had a one-day race in Belgium, the Grand Prix Pino Cerami, won by Pete Kenyock of Bora Hansgrohe, his first win in just over a year. Whilst a little further south, we're now 2 days into the 5-day Tour de Wallonie, where Tim Wellens is currently in the race lead. There are a number of riders looking to better Bradley Wiggins' hour record, and the first of those was full-time engineer Martin Toft Madsen from Denmark. He had to crowdfund his way to the newly resurfaced Aguas Calientes velodrome at altitude in Mexico. Unfortunately for Toff, he came up a little short, clocking a respectable 53.36 kilometres in the hour, having faded in the finale. Much more on that coming up on tomorrow's GCN show. And finally this week, it's the NorthCape 4000, a 4,200 kilometre event that takes riders from Lake Garda to the North Cape, passing through a total of 10 countries in the process. After 24 hours, the various entrants were already spread across 3 countries, some still in Italy, many in Austria, whilst frontrunner Karol Wroblewski is still in the lead, having covered around 1,000 kilometres and arrived in Javornik. Talking of ultra endurance, the Transcontinental started yesterday at the top of the iconic Muur van Gerardsbergen in Flanders. Catherine was there catching up with the riders before the start, so stay tuned for that content on the channel very soon. Dan will be back with an update on how they're getting on this time next week, when he'll also be talking Classica San Sebastian, the Tour of Denmark, the first day of the Tour of Poland, and the Volta a Portugal. Until then, if you've yet to watch our video on the career of Geraint Thomas, you can find that just down here.